The air in the laboratory tasted like death and chemicals. One rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the test results again. Every number told the same story. Humanity was dying, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The Crimson Plague had started 3 years ago in a military research facility. Someone made a mistake with a bioweapon, and that mistake spread across Earth like wildfire. The disease turned human blood into a thick, red sludge that destroyed organs from the inside. First came the fever, then the pain, then death within 72 hours. No cure existed. No treatment worked. 80% of humanity was already gone. One stood from his desk and walked to the window. Outside, the city of Seoul lay silent. No cars moved on the streets. No people walked the sidewalks. Most buildings stood empty, their windows dark like dead eyes. The few survivors left huddled in quarantine zones, waiting for death to find them too. His radio crackled to life. This is Commander. We have something on the scanners, something big. One grabbed the radio. What kind of something? Unknown. It just appeared at the edge of our solar system, moving toward Earth. His heart sank. As if the plague wasn't enough, now they had an unknown threat approaching. I'll be right there. The command center sat 3 floors below the laboratory, stood in front of a massive screen showing the solar system. A red dot moved slowly toward Earth, growing larger with each passing second. How big is it? One asked. Crossed her arms. Bigger than anything we've ever built. It's the size of a small city. The remaining staff gathered around the screen. 20 people, all that remained of Earth's defense force. They watched the object approach, helpless to stop it if it meant harm. Should we try to contact it? Someone asked. Before could answer, the screen flickered. A new image appeared. A face unlike any human looked back at them. Smooth gray skin, large golden eyes, and an expression that seemed almost kind. People of Earth, the alien said in perfect English. We have watched your species from afar for many cycles. We see your suffering. We have come to offer help. The room fell silent. One felt his throat tighten. Help. After everything they had been through, someone was offering help. The alien continued. We understand the plague that kills your kind. Our science can cure it. We can save your species from extinction. All we ask is permission to land and share our knowledge. Looked at one. It could be a trick. What choice do we have? One whispered. We're dead anyway. At least this gives us a chance. Within hours, the ship landed on Mars. The aliens didn't come to Earth directly, they said, because they didn't want to risk spreading the plague to their own people. Instead, they built a research station on the Red Planet and invited human scientists to join them. One was on the first shuttle. When he stepped into the station, he couldn't believe what he saw. Clean white halls filled with technology beyond human understanding. Machines that hummed with power. Medical bays with equipment that looked like magic. Ambassador, the alien who had spoken to them, greeted one personally. The stood tall, almost 7 feet high, with long limbs and graceful movements. Welcome, one said. Your reputation as a scientist precedes you. Together we will save your people. They weren't lying. Within 3 days they had analyzed the plague. Within a week they had created a cure. The medicine was simple to make and easy to distribute. It worked perfectly. Haewon, a doctor working in one of the last quarantine zones on Earth, received the first shipment of the cure. She held the small vial up to the light, hardly daring to believe it was real. Around her, thousands of sick people lay on cots, waiting to die. This is it, she asked the delivery pilot. That's it, 1 dose per person. They say it will work in 24 hours. Haewon started with the children. She found her own daughter, Mi-sun, lying in a bed at the end of the medical tent. The girl was only 8 years old. Her skin had turned pale and dark veins showed through like black spider webs. She had maybe a day left to live. Sweetheart, Haewon whispered, this might hurt a little. She injected the cure into Mi-sun's arm. Then she moved to the next child and the next and the next. All through the night she worked, giving the cure to everyone she could reach. When morning came, Hayone returned to her daughter's bed. Misun's eyes were open. The dark veins had faded. Color had returned to her cheeks. "Mom," the girl said weakly, "I feel better." Hayone fell to her knees and cried. All around the tent, people were waking up. The dying were becoming the living. The cure worked. It actually worked. Over the next 6 months, the cure spread across Earth. Millions who had been waiting for death found themselves healthy again. The plague was defeated. Humanity had been saved from the edge of extinction. They asked for nothing in return. They helped humans rebuild their cities. They shared technology to grow food, clean water, and generate power. They offered knowledge about space travel and other worlds. They were patient teachers, kind mentors, and generous friends. One worked with the scientists every day. They taught him things he had never imagined possible: medicine that could heal any wound, energy sources that never ran out, materials stronger than steel but lighter than air. "Why are you helping us?" he asked one evening. The ambassador smiled, a strange expression on the alien face. "Because we believe in nurturing young species. You have potential, one. Given time and guidance, humanity could become something wonderful. We have done this before for other species. We know the path you must walk." "What happened to those other species?" "They thrived," said. "Under our care, they grew into peaceful, prosperous civilizations. They learned to set aside violence and embrace harmony, as you will in time." One nodded, but something in the alien's words felt strange, almost scripted, like an answer given many times before. That night back on Earth, Hayone held her daughter close. Misun was healthy now, laughing and playing like the plague had never happened. Around them, the world was coming back to life. Buildings were being repaired. Farms were growing food again. People smiled and talked about the future. In the sky above, the ship hung like a silver moon, a reminder of who had saved them, a symbol of humanity's second chance. Nobody thought about the price of that salvation. Not yet. They were too busy being grateful, too busy being alive. The had come when humanity needed them most. They had offered help and they had delivered. It would be many years before anyone asked what they wanted in return, before anyone wondered why such powerful beings cared about a dying species on a small planet, before anyone discovered that salvation often comes with chains attached. For now, humanity celebrated. They had been dying and they had been saved. That was all that mattered. 30 years had passed since they arrived. Earth looked different now. Cities gleamed with new buildings that touched the clouds. Ships moved between planets like cars on a highway. Humans lived on Mars, the Moon, and 10 colony worlds scattered across nearby star systems. The nightmare of the plague felt like ancient history. Sangmin walked through the halls of the Human Integration Institute, checking reports on his tablet. He had been just a boy when the aliens came. Now he was 40 years old and in charge of the largest research center in human space. His old mentor had retired 5 years ago. Before leaving, he had told Sangmin to watch, listen, and learn everything they were willing to teach. "And learn what they're not willing to teach," one had added quietly. Sangmin thought about those words often. They had given humanity so much: faster-than-light travel, advanced medicine, clean energy, weapons to protect the colonies from pirates and raiders. But there were gaps, technologies they mentioned but never explained, questions they politely avoided answering. In the engineering bay, Wu was working on a new starship design. She was the best engineer in the fleet, a woman who could look at technology and see possibilities the aliens never mentioned. Her current project was a hybrid ship that combined human and systems in ways that made the visitors uncomfortable. "Morning, Sangmin," she called out, wiping grease from her hands. "Want to see something interesting?" She pulled up a hologram of a weapons system. It looked like a standard energy cannon, but the internal design was different. Modified. The cannons are designed for precision, Wu explained. They disable enemy ships without destroying them. Very civilized, very controlled. And yours? Sangmin asked. Wu grinned. Mine doesn't care about being civilized. It punches through shields and turns ships into scrap metal. I tested it yesterday. The observers looked horrified. Did they say anything? They said humans shouldn't focus so much on destructive capability. They said we should embrace peaceful solutions. Wu's smile faded. They say that about everything. Don't build bigger weapons. Don't expand too fast. Don't ask too many questions about their technology. Sometimes I wonder if they want us to stay weak. Sangmin felt the same suspicion growing in his gut, but he kept his face neutral. Keep developing it anyway, quietly. I want to see what else we can improve. Across the solar system, Admiral Yang stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable. He was reviewing the fleet's status reports, and the numbers made him smile. Earth's defense armada now included 500 warships, all equipped with weapons that exceeded expectations. Officially, the fleet existed to protect human colonies from pirates and raiders. Unofficially, Yang made sure humanity could defend itself against any threat. Admiral, the delegation is requesting a meeting, his communications officer reported. Yang nodded. Tell them I'll be there in an hour. The meeting took place in a conference room overlooking Earth. 3 representatives sat on one side of the table. Yang sat on the other, his face calm and professional. The lead, a female named Elle, spoke first. Admiral, we are concerned about your recent military expansion. 500 warships seems excessive for dealing with pirates. Our colonies need protection, Yang replied smoothly. The galaxy is not as peaceful as we'd like. But such heavy armament, another added. These ships carry weapons far beyond what is necessary for defense. Some of your new designs are quite aggressive. Yang leaned back in his chair. They taught us to be prepared. We're simply following that lesson. Elle's golden eyes studied him carefully. We taught you to be cautious, not militaristic. There is a difference. We would prefer if humanity focused more on cultural development and less on weapons production. We appreciate your guidance, Yang said, his voice polite but firm. But humanity must make its own choices about defense. We learned what happens when we're unprepared. The plague taught us that lesson well. They exchanged glances. Elle nodded slowly. Of course. We simply hope you remember that strength without wisdom leads to destruction. Many young species make this mistake. After the left, Yang called Sangmin on a secure channel. They're getting nervous, Yang said. They don't like how fast we're advancing. Good, Sangmin replied. That means we're doing something right. The tension grew over the following years. Human scientists kept pushing boundaries they preferred to keep closed. Engineers built ships faster and more powerful than the thought appropriate. Colonies expanded into systems they suggested avoiding. Young humans, especially those born after the plague, started questioning why they seemed to control so much of human development. They hadn't lived through the dying times. They didn't remember being saved. They only saw aliens who acted like parents telling children what to do. Protests started on Earth and the colonies, small at first, then growing larger. Human independence, they chanted. We're not children anymore. They responded with patience and gentle words. They reminded humanity of all they had given. They spoke of the dangers of moving too fast, of species who had destroyed themselves through reckless advancement. They were calm, kind, and absolutely certain they knew best. But Sangmin had started digging into databases. With Wu's help, he accessed files they thought were secure. What he found made his blood run cold. Records of other species, dozens of them, all following the same pattern, that would arrive when a species faced crisis. They would offer help. They would guide and nurture and teach, and they would never leave. Look at this, Sangmin showed Wu one night in his private office. The owl, The helped them 2,000 years ago. The AL are still under guidance. They never developed beyond what they allowed. They're like pets. Wu read through the files, her expression darkening. All the same story. The save them, then keep them in a permanent state of dependence. They're not mentors, Sangmin whispered. They're farmers. They cultivate civilizations and keep them controlled. What do? We tell Yang, we tell the government, and we start preparing. When one heard the news, he sat in his retirement home for a long time without speaking. He was old now, his hair white, his hands shaking with age, but his mind was still sharp. I suspected something was wrong, he finally said. 30 years ago, when talked about other species they'd helped, the way he said it felt wrong, like he was talking about crops, not civilizations. What should we do? Sangmin asked his old mentor. One looked out the window at the station orbiting Earth, that silver presence that had hung in the sky for 3 decades. We thank them for saving us, one said quietly, and then we make sure we never need saving again, whatever that takes. The word spread quietly through human leadership, not a panic but a cold understanding. They had saved humanity, yes, but they had also trapped humanity in a cage of gratitude and guidance. A comfortable cage, but a cage nonetheless. Admiral Yang called a secret meeting of the highest-ranking military officers. Wu presented her weapons research. Sangmin shared the files about other species. Everyone understood what needed to happen. Humanity had to break free, but they were powerful, ancient, and had done this dozens of times before. They wouldn't let their project simply walk away. If humanity wanted independence, they would have to fight for it. And the fight would have to be so fierce, so terrible, that they would never try to control them again. The seeds of war were planted in meetings held in secret rooms, in research labs working through the night, in shipyards building vessels they weren't supposed to know about. Humanity prepared, and the confident in their role as eternal guardians never saw it coming. The exploration ship Steadfast dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the edge of the Keres system. Captain Jinho watched as a gray planet appeared against the black of space. Keres 9, a dead world on the edge of charted space. According to the star maps, nothing of value existed here. But long-range scans had detected something. Structures, buildings, the remains of a civilization that shouldn't exist. Prepare the landing team, Jinho ordered. I want full scans before we go down. In the science bay, Wu was already studying the data. He was an archaeologist, used to digging through Earth's ancient history. This was his first chance to explore alien ruins, and his hands shook with excitement as he examined the readings. Captain, these structures are old, Wu reported. At least 5,000 years, maybe older. Whoever built them had advanced technology. Any idea who they were? Not yet, but I'm seeing patterns in the construction that look familiar. Some of the architectural elements resemble design. Jinho frowned. They never mentioned having ruins out here. No, Wu agreed, they didn't. The landing party consisted of 6 people. Wu led the archaeologists. A specialist in ancient languages and computer systems came to decode any information they found. 4 security officers provided protection. They descended to Keres 9 in a small shuttle, landing near the largest structure. The ruins were massive. Towers of dark metal reached toward the dead sky. Bridges connected buildings in intricate patterns. Everything was covered in dust and erosion, but the scale was impressive. This had been a major city once. Spread out, Wu ordered. Look for anything that might tell us who lived here. They explored for 3 hours before finding the archive. It was buried deep beneath the surface, protected by layers of shielding that had kept it safe for thousands of years. The door was sealed, but managed to bypass the ancient locks with her equipment. Inside, rows of data storage devices lined the walls. Most were dead, their power long since faded. but 3 devices in the center of the room still hummed with faint energy. "This is it," whispered. "Whatever they wanted to preserve, it's in these machines." Connecting her portable computer to the ancient system took 6 hours. The security officers grew nervous as evening fell on the dead world. The ruins felt wrong somehow. Too quiet, too empty. "Got it," finally announced. "I'm downloading the files now." The data was enormous, records spanning thousands of years, written in a language neither human nor but using symbols that reminded of proto-script. Her translation software struggled with the ancient text, but slowly, words began to form on her screen. What she read made her stomach turn. "Wu," she called out, "you need to see this." The archaeologist joined her, reading over her shoulder. His face went pale. "Contact the ship," he said quietly. "Tell Jinho we need to leave now." Back on the Steadfast, Wu presented his findings to the captain. The crew gathered in the briefing room, listening in stunned silence as the truth unfolded. "The people who built those cities called themselves the Al," Wu began. 5,000 years ago, they were a thriving civilization. They had space travel, advanced science, art, and culture. They spread across 12 worlds in their home system. He pulled up an image from the archive. It showed the Al, a species that looked like crosses between humans and insects, with 4 arms and complex eyes. Then disaster struck. A rogue asteroid hit there. The impact threw dust into the atmosphere and caused a climate collapse. Billions died in the first year. The Al civilization was dying. "Let me guess," Jinho said grimly. "The showed up." Yes, they arrived and offered help. They had medicine to cure the radiation sickness, technology to rebuild. The Al accepted gratefully. How could they not? They were facing extinction. Wu pulled up more files. For the first 100 years, everything seemed wonderful. The Al recovered. They rebuilt their cities. They taught them new sciences and helped them expand to new worlds. The Al called them their saviors. "What happened?" asked, though she already suspected the answer. "They never left. They established permanent stations in every Al system. They offered guidance on everything. What ships to build, what technologies to develop, where to expand. At first, the Al appreciated the help, but as generations passed, younger Al started asking questions." Wu's hands trembled as he pulled up the next file. Why were they so interested in controlling Al military development? Why did they discourage certain research projects? Why did they always suggest staying close to home instead of exploring distant space? The Al leaders confronted them. They said their species was mature enough to make its own decisions. They asked them to leave. The room was silent now. Everyone knew what was coming. They refused. They said the Al weren't ready for independence. They said young species needed guidance to avoid destroying themselves. When the Al insisted, they all support. Immediately. Jinho leaned forward. "What do you mean, all support?" "Everything. They took their technology back. Ships stopped working because they had built-in dependencies. Power systems failed. Medicine ran out. The Al economy collapsed overnight. Within 5 years, their civilization fell apart." Wu pulled up the final files. Images of dying cities. Records of civil wars fought over dwindling resources. The slow extinction of a species that had depended too much on their saviors. "The last entry in the archive was written 200 years after the left," Wu said softly. "By then, only a few thousand Al survived, scattered across the ruins of their civilization. The writer knew they were the last generation. They created this archive as a warning." He played the final recording. The Al who spoke was old, his voice breaking with emotion. The translation software struggled, but the meaning was clear. "To whoever finds this message, know the truth about they do not save species out of kindness. They cultivate us like farmers tend crops. They keep us dependent, weak, and controlled. If you accept their help, you accept chains. If you try to break those chains, they will let you die. We were not the first species they controlled. We will not be the last. Beware the kindness of the. It comes with a price you cannot pay. The recording ended. The briefing room stayed silent for a long time. Pulled up more data she had decoded. There are references to 6 other species in these files, 6 other civilizations that helped and then controlled. Some of them still exist under guidance. Some, like the owl, tried to rebel and died out. We need to send this to Earth, Jinho said. Immediately. The monitor all our long-range communications, pointed out. If we send this, they'll know. Then we take it back ourselves, Jinho decided. We say we found nothing of value here. We keep the data hidden until we reach home. The Steadfast began its journey back to Earth. The trip would take 3 weeks at maximum speed. Every day, the crew expected ships to intercept them, but nothing happened. They didn't know what they had found. When they finally reached Earth, Jinho bypassed normal channels and went directly to Admiral Yang. He handed over the data from Keres 9 personally. Yang spent 2 days reviewing the files. Then he called an emergency meeting with Sang Min and the human government leaders. We already suspected they were controlling us, Yang said. Now we have proof, and we know what happens to species who try to break free. They let them die, Sang Min added. They've done it before. They'll do it to us if we're not ready. Wu Jin, Earth's Prime Minister, looked around the room at the gathered leaders. Then we make sure we're ready, whatever it takes. We can't live as this pets forever. The decision was made. Humanity would prepare for independence. But this time, when they confronted they would be strong enough that the aliens couldn't simply abandon them to death. They would be so strong that they would have no choice but to leave peacefully. Or face war. The ruins of Keres 9 were left behind, silent witnesses to the cycle that repeated across the galaxy. Species saved, species controlled, species destroyed. They had perfected the pattern over thousands of years. But they had never encountered a species like humanity before, a species that would rather fight than live in comfortable chains, a species that remembered what extinction felt like and refused to be dependent ever again. The warning from the owl had reached its intended audience. Now humanity had to decide what to do with that knowledge, and whether they were willing to pay the price of freedom, no matter how high it might be. Prime Minister Wu Jin stood in a secure bunker 3 miles beneath the surface of Earth. The room had no windows, no connection to outside networks, and no way for them to monitor what happened inside. Around a long table sat humanity's most important leaders, military commanders, scientists, engineers, intelligence officers. We call this project Silent Dawn, Wu Jin began. The goal is simple. We prepare humanity for complete independence from the. We do this quietly, carefully, and without alerting them to what we're doing. Admiral Yang pulled up a holographic display. They have stations in every human system. They monitor our communications, watch our military developments, and track our expansion. If they suspect we're preparing to break free, they'll act before we're ready. So we smile, we thank them for their guidance, and we hide our real work, added Sora, the woman in charge of humanity's Black Research Division. Her department officially didn't exist. Its facilities were hidden in asteroid bases and remote moons. Its work was classified at levels above top secret. What do we need? Wu Jin asked. Sora activated her own display. First, complete technological independence. Every piece of technology in our systems needs to be reverse-engineered and replaced. If they can shut down our ships, power grids, or weapons remotely, we're finished. Second, military superiority. We need enough firepower that they can't force us into submission. They have to know that fighting us would cost more than it's worth. Third, economic independence. Our supply chains can't rely on trade or resources. We need to be completely self-sufficient. Over the next 3 years, humanity worked in secret. In official meetings with the humans were polite, grateful, and cooperative. They smiled and nodded when the aliens offered advice. They seemed to follow guidance perfectly. But beneath the surface, everything changed. Sora's researchers tore apart every piece of technology they could find. They discovered that the aliens had built into almost everything they'd given humanity. Kill switches that could disable ships, weapons, and power systems with a single transmitted code. They could shut down our entire civilization with one signal, Sora reported to Wu Jin. Every major system we have depends on components that they can control remotely. Replace all of it, Wu Jin ordered. I don't care how long it takes. Engineers worked day and night creating human versions of technology. The new systems looked identical to the originals from the outside, but inside they were completely different. No remote controls, purely human design. The work was slow. Every replacement had to be perfect, or they would notice the difference. Power plants were upgraded one at a time. Ships were retrofitted during routine maintenance. Communication systems were swapped out during supposed repairs. Meanwhile, Sora's weapons division pushed human innovation to its limits. They had shared defensive technology and precise weapons meant to disable, not destroy. But humans had different ideas about warfare. The fight like surgeons, Sora explained. Precise, controlled, minimal casualties. They can't imagine fighting any other way. And we fight like survivors, Yang added. We fight to win whatever it takes. The new weapons were terrifying. Quantum displacement drives that let ships appear inside enemy formations without warning. Neural mesh combat networks that connected human pilots into a single coordinated intelligence. Swarm missiles that learned and adapted during flight. Kinetic accelerators that could punch through any known shielding. And then there was the Cascade device. Sora showed it to Wu Jin in person, in a secure facility orbiting Neptune. The device looked small, almost harmless, a sphere of dark metal covered in strange symbols. This is our final deterrent, Sora said quietly. If they won't leave peacefully, this makes sure they understand the consequences of staying. What does it do? It destabilizes stars. One device planted near a sun causes a chain reaction. The star goes supernova within hours. Everything in the system is destroyed. Wu Jin stared at the weapon for a long time. This is genocide. This is insurance, Sora corrected. The need to know we're serious. They need to understand that if they try to destroy us like they destroyed the owl, we'll take them with us. How many have you built? 50, hidden in unmarked ships throughout space. If they move against us, my people activate them. They'll lose 50 systems before they can respond. Wu Jin felt sick but nodded. Keep them ready. Pray we never have to use them. While the weapons and technology advanced, Yang expanded the military in secret. They knew about Earth's defense armada. 500 ships, all visible and tracked. What they didn't know about were the ghost fleets. In uncharted systems, hidden shipyards worked around the clock. Automated factories built warships using entirely human designs. No components, no monitoring. By the end of the third year, humanity had 3,000 combat vessels they knew nothing about. Yang trained new commanders in tactics they would never expect. Aggressive maneuvers, overwhelming force, no hesitation, no mercy. The kind of warfare that horrified civilized species but won battles. Not everyone agreed with the plan. The old commander who had first met spent her final years speaking against the military buildup. They saved us when we were dying, she reminded anyone who would listen. Yes, they want control. Yes, they manipulate species. But do we repay salvation with violence? She died 6 months before Project Silent Dawn completed. Her last words to Yang were a warning. Whatever you do, don't become monsters. We fought to survive the plague with our humanity intact. Don't lose it now fighting for freedom. Yang attended her funeral and said nothing. He knew what had to be done. By year 3, humanity was ready. Every critical system ran on human technology. The military was larger and more advanced than the suspected. Supply chains were completely independent. Humanity could survive without them. The question was whether they would let them. Wu Jin called the final meeting of Project Silent Dawn. "We've done everything we can to prepare. Now we have to try diplomacy first. We ask them to leave peacefully." "And if they refuse?" Sora asked. "Then we show them why refusing was a mistake." The formal request was delivered on a Tuesday morning. Wu Jin met with Ambassador, the same who had first offered help to dying humanity 33 years earlier. The alien looked the same as always, calm, patient, certain of his place in the galaxy. "Ambassador," Wu Jin began, "humanity is grateful for everything they have done for us. You saved our species from extinction. You helped us rebuild. You taught us to reach the stars. We will never forget what you've given us." Smiled. "Your gratitude is appreciated, Prime Minister. We are proud of how far humanity has come under our guidance." "That's what I wanted to discuss, our guidance." Wu Jin kept his voice respectful but firm. "Humanity is no longer the dying species you found 33 years ago. We've grown, we've learned, we've become capable of standing on our own." The ambassador's smile faded slightly. "Every species feels this way eventually. It's natural for children to want independence from their parents." "We're not children anymore," Wu Jin said. "We're ready to make our own choices, even if they're mistakes. It's time for them to step back and let us find our own path." Was quiet for a moment, then he shook his head slowly. "I'm afraid that's not possible. Humanity is still too young, too aggressive, too prone to violence. Without our guidance, you would destroy yourselves within a generation. We've seen it happen before. We cannot allow it to happen to you." "We're not asking permission," Wu Jin said carefully. "We're asking you to leave voluntarily, as friends, with our gratitude and respect. And if we decline, then we'll be forced to insist." Stood, his golden eyes cold. "Prime Minister, I think you misunderstand the situation. Do not simply walk away from species under our care. We have guided humanity this far. We will continue to guide you, for your own good. Even if we don't want your guidance anymore. Especially then, young species don't know what's best for them. That's why they need us." The meeting ended. Wu Jin returned to the secure bunker and activated the emergency protocols. Messages went out on hidden channels to every human military facility. "Project Silent Dawn is active. Prepare for independence. They have refused to leave peacefully." Admiral Yang received the message on the bridge of his flagship. He looked at his officers, seeing the mix of fear and determination on their faces. "We tried diplomacy," he said. "Now we do this the hard way. All ships battle stations. Let's show that humanity doesn't kneel to anyone, not even our saviors." Across human space, 3,000 hidden warships powered up their engines. Weapons systems came online. Pilots climbed into their fighters. Soldiers loaded their rifles. They had saved humanity once. Now humanity would save itself, no matter the cost. They made their move 3 days after Wu Jin's meeting with. They called it containment protocols. Humanity called it what it really was, an act of war. At exactly midnight, every piece of technology in human space received a shutdown signal. Or at least, that's what should have happened. The expected power grids to fail, ships to go dead in space, weapons to stop working. They expected humanity to realize how dependent they were and accept control. Instead, nothing happened. On Earth, in the command bunker, Wu Jin watched the signal spread across the network. It touched every system, tried every, sent every kill code the aliens had built into their technology over 30 years. And every signal failed, because every piece of technology had been replaced with human versions that looked identical but answered to no one except humanity. "They're trying to shut us down," Sora reported. It's not working. They're going to realize we've been preparing for this. Good, Wujin said coldly. Let them know. Admiral Yang, you have authorization to proceed. In orbit around Saturn, Yang stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. Around his flagship, 3,000 warships materialized from the darkness. They had been hiding in the outer solar system, waiting for this moment. The research station near Saturn's rings detected the fleet and immediately sent a distress call. They demanded to know what was happening. Why were human warships surrounding them? Yang opened a channel to the station. Station, this is Admiral Yang of Earth's Defense Fleet. You have attempted to sabotage human systems. You have refused our request to leave peacefully. You are hereby ordered to evacuate all personnel immediately. You have 1 hour. The commander responded with confusion and anger. This is insane. We are your allies. We saved you. You tried to enslave us, Yang corrected, and we're done being grateful. 59 minutes remaining. They didn't evacuate. They called for help from their empire and activated their station's defensive shields. They truly believed humanity wouldn't dare attack them. They had saved these people. Surely gratitude and fear would prevent violence. They were wrong about both. 59 minutes later, Yang gave the order. All ships open fire. The battle lasted 14 minutes. The station was designed to withstand standard weapons. It could handle precise energy beams and controlled missile strikes. What it couldn't handle was 3,000 ships firing everything they had in a concentrated barrage. Wu's modified weapons punched through the shields in seconds. Swarm missiles adapted to each defensive measure and found weak points. Kinetic rounds moving at relativistic speeds tore through the station's hull like paper. When it was over, the station was debris floating in Saturn's rings. Yang didn't celebrate. This was just the beginning. Ambassador appeared on every screen in human space, his face showing emotion for the first time in 30 years. Shock, horror, anger. You attacked us, he said, his voice shaking. After everything we've done for you, you murdered our people. We gave them an hour to leave, Yang replied calmly. They chose to stay. That was their mistake. This is war, then. The full might of the Empire will come for you. You cannot possibly win. Watch us. The Empire responded exactly as expected. They dispatched a fleet of 500 ships to Earth. Massive vessels built over thousands of years, equipped with technology humanity had never seen. The fleet was led by Commander L, the same who had questioned Yang's military expansion years before. The fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system expecting to find humanity cowering, begging for mercy. Instead, they found Yang's entire armada waiting for them. 500 of their ships against 3,000 of ours, Yang said to his bridge crew. They still think numbers don't matter. They still think their technology makes them superior. Should we offer terms? His communications officer asked. No, we tried talking. They chose this. Now they learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. The battle was brutal and short. They fought like they always fought, precisely, carefully, trying to disable human ships without destroying them, trying to minimize casualties even against an enemy that had attacked them. Humanity fought like animals backed into a corner. No mercy, no restraint, every advantage exploited, every weakness targeted. Human ships jumped in and out of the battle using displacement drives, appearing behind formations and firing at point-blank range before jumping away. Neural mesh networks let human commanders think and react as one massive intelligence, coordinating attacks faster than individual captains could respond to. When they tried to retreat, human ships pursued them across 2 systems. L sent a desperate message to Yang. Stop, please, we surrender, we'll leave human space, just stop the killing. But Yang remembered the owl, remembered how they had abandoned them to death, remembered 30 years of manipulation and control disguised as kindness. No, he said simply, you don't get to surrender, You don't get to walk away. You tried to make us your pets, and when we refused, you tried to destroy us. Now you learn what happens when the pets fight back." By the time the battle ended, 400 ships were destroyed or disabled. The survivors fled deeper into space, carrying news of humanity's ferocity. One watched the reports from his retirement home, his old heart breaking. He had spent decades working with he knew them. They weren't evil. They genuinely believed they were helping younger species, but they couldn't see how their help became control, how their guidance became chains. "Both sides are right," he whispered to himself, "and both sides are wrong, and now people are dying because of it." Hay-One, working in a hospital treating wounded soldiers, felt the same sickness in her stomach. She had held her dying daughter 33 years ago. The cure had saved Mi-sun's life. Now Mi-sun was a fighter pilot, out there killing soldiers. "They saved us so we could kill them," Hay-One said to a colleague. "What kind of universe allows this?" But the war wasn't over. The Empire had thousands of worlds, hundreds of thousands of ships. They had never lost a war before. They couldn't comprehend retreating from a species they had saved. The High Command gathered on their capital world of Prime. They debated what to do about humanity. Some argued for complete military response. Others suggested isolation, leaving humanity alone to destroy itself. A few even suggested negotiation. In the end, they chose pride over wisdom. The Empire would crush humanity, not because they hated them, but because letting them win would encourage every other species under control to rebel. A massive fleet began assembling at Prime. 10,000 ships, weapons that could shatter planets, soldiers who had never known defeat. They would sweep into human space and end this rebellion once and for all. Sora received the intelligence reports about the gathering fleet. She brought the information to Wu Jin and Yang. 10,000 ships. We can't beat that even with our advantages. They'll overwhelm us through sheer numbers. Then we don't fight them directly, Yang said. We hit them where they're gathering. Prime, that's 4 inhabited worlds in one system. Billions of civilians. They should have thought about that before trying to enslave us. Wu Jin looked at both of them. The weight of what they were about to do pressed down on him like a physical force. Are we really going to do this? Use the cascade device? Kill billions? We use one, Sora said quietly. We show them we're serious. Then we offer terms. They leave us alone forever, or we use the other 49 devices and take out 50 more systems. We become mass murderers. We become free, Yang corrected. They have to understand that controlling us costs more than they're willing to pay. The decision was made. A single unmarked ship approached Prime Sun. It released the cascade device and jumped away. 12 hours later, the device activated. The sun began to die. The reaction was slow at first, then accelerating. Scientists detected the anomaly and realized with horror what was happening. They had 4 hours before the star went supernova. Evacuation ships launched in panic. They managed to save some people, but with billions to evacuate and only hours to work, most were left behind. When the sun exploded, it consumed 4 inhabited worlds, 17 stations, and the 10,000 ships gathered for the invasion. 3 billion died in an instant. The entire empire felt the loss like a knife to the heart. Wu Jin sent a message to what remained of leadership. We have 49 more devices hidden in 49 more systems. Leave humanity alone or we activate them all. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement. We will be free, no matter the cost. The Empire, for the first time in its 10,000-year history, surrendered. They agreed to withdraw from all human space. They agreed never to contact humanity again. They agreed to let this dangerous, violent, ungrateful species go their own way. But the victory felt hollow. Yang stood on the bridge of his flagship looking at casualty reports. Millions of humans dead, billions of dead, all because both sides couldn't find a better way. In his retirement home, one recorded one final message. His hands shook as he spoke to the camera. They came when we were dying, they offered help, we accepted. For 30 years we lived under their guidance. Then we learned that guidance was control and we chose freedom. We fought for that freedom. We won that freedom, but the price was so high. He paused, collecting his thoughts. I spent my life studying science, looking for answers, trying to understand the universe, but I don't understand this. They saved us. We should have been grateful. We were grateful, but gratitude doesn't mean slavery, and being saved doesn't mean being owned. They try to keep us as pets, as children, as projects to guide and control. When we refused, they tried to destroy us, so we destroyed them first. We became the monsters we needed to be to survive. Now the galaxy knows our name, not as the species that was saved, but as the species that repaid salvation with annihilation. We're free, we're powerful, we're feared, and I wonder if that's better than what we had before. I don't know if we were right. I don't know if they were right, I just know that people died. Good people on both sides, and I wonder if there was another way, if we'd been wiser, if they'd been wiser, if anyone had been wiser. The message ended. One died 3 days later. He never learned how history would judge humanity's choice. The empire retreated to its core worlds, forever changed. They stopped trying to guide younger species. The cost was too high. Let the young races rise or fall on their own. Humanity expanded into the galaxy, carrying a reputation for violence and determination. Other species stepped carefully around them. Nobody wanted to help humanity anymore. Nobody wanted to control them either. On Earth, in a quiet hospital, Haywan held her daughter Misun. The young pilot had survived the war, but barely. She lay in bed by battles fought against the species that had saved her life as a child. Was it worth it, Mom? Misun asked. All this death, all this pain, just to be free. Haywan didn't answer. She didn't have an answer. She just held her daughter close and wondered if freedom always had to cost so much. They had offered help when humanity needed it most. Humanity had repaid them in cataclysmic ways. Both species would carry those scars forever, and the question that neither could answer remained. Was there ever really another choice?